writing, "How do you flirt with a guy without sounding like an idiot?" Mason Carter said it like he was asking me where the vending machine was, not like he had just kicked my entire nervous system down a flight of stairs. I looked up from my laptop so fast I almost knocked over my iced coffee. "What?" Mason stood beside my table in the student center, still wearing his football hoodie, the one with Carter stretched across the back like the whole campus needed a reminder. His hair was damp from practice, his backpack hanging off one shoulder, and there was this weird tightness around his mouth I had never seen before. Mason Carter did not look nervous. Mason Carter made other people nervous. Freshmen moved out of his way in the hall. Girls smiled at him before he even noticed them. Guys on the team slapped his shoulder like he was built out of confidence and protein powder. And me? I was Ethan Brooks, sitting alone with a half-finished essay, pretending I had not liked him since the first week of sophomore year. I blinked at him. "You're asking me?" He glanced around, then slid into the chair across from me. Not beside me. Across. Safer. I noticed anyway. "Yeah. You're the football captain." "That doesn't answer my question." "It kind of does." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I'm serious." That made my smile fade a little. Because he was serious. His knee bounced under the table. His fingers tapped once against his phone, then stopped like he caught himself doing it. My stomach tightened before I even knew why. "Okay," I said slowly. "Who are you trying to flirt with?" Mason looked at me for half a second too long. Then he looked down at his phone. "Just this guy." There it was. This guy? Two harmless words that somehow made my chest feel stupidly hollow. I forced a laugh, because that was easier than looking hurt. "Wow. Mysterious. Very middle school of you." One corner of his mouth lifted, but it didn't reach his eyes. I don't want to mess it up. That should have made me feel good for him. Mature people probably felt good when their crush admitted they liked someone else. I was not mature. I was sitting there wondering what kind of guy made Mason Carter nervous. What kind of guy got to be wanted by him out loud? I cleared my throat and looked back at my laptop like the blurry paragraph on screen had suddenly become fascinating. "Why not ask one of your teammates?" Mason made a face. "Absolutely not." "Why?" "Because they'd be weird about it. And I won't." His eyes came back to mine. "Steady. Too steady." "No. I trust you." The room got louder around us somehow. Chairs scraping. Someone laughing near the coffee counter. A blender screaming behind the cafe bar. But for 1 second, all I could hear was my own pulse. "I trust you." Great. Amazing. Perfect. Nothing more romantic than being emotionally useful to the guy you secretly wanted. I nodded like my throat hadn't gone dry. "Okay. Fine. What have you got so far?" Mason unlocked his phone and turned it toward me. The message box was empty. Completely empty. I stared at it. "This is what you've got." I panicked. "You haven't typed one word." That's how bad the panic was. I laughed before I could stop myself, and Mason's shoulders loosened a little, like he had been waiting for that. Like my reaction mattered, which was dangerous to think about, so I didn't. "Start simple," I said. "Don't open with some cheesy line. Just be normal." "Normal how?" "Ask how his day was. Mention something you actually noticed." People like being noticed. Mason watched me instead of the phone. "Yeah. Yeah." My voice came out quieter, but not in a creepy way. "Right." His thumb hovered over the screen. "So if I said, 'You look tired in class today, everything okay?' That works." I swallowed. Because I had been tired in class today. Because Mason had apparently noticed. "That's fine." "Fine bad or fine good?" "Fine good." He smiled a little. "You're weirdly strict. You came to me for help." I did. Another pause. Not long enough to call out. Too long to ignore. Then Mason tilted his head, studying me with this expression I could not read. "What would work on you?" My brain stopped. "What?" "Like, if someone was trying to flirt with you." His voice stayed casual, but his eyes didn't. "What would actually work?" Heat climbed up the back of my neck. I looked away first, obviously, because I had survival instincts. "I don't know. Maybe don't make it sound like a football drill." Mason huffed a quiet laugh. "That bad?" "Pretty bad." "Then teach me." I should have said no. I should have packed my laptop, made some joke, walked away before I did something embarrassing like hope. Instead, I sat there with my heart beating too fast and said, "Okay, but if this guy falls for you, I'm taking credit." Mason's smile changed. Softer. Almost nervous again. "Deal." I told myself it meant nothing. He needed help. I was helping. That was all. But then Mason leaned back in his chair, still looking at me, and said, So, can I practice with you? The problem with agreeing to help Mason Carter was that he immediately acted like it was normal. Like he had not just asked me to be his practice target for flirting with some mystery guy who was definitely not me. 2 days later, after his evening practice, he texted me 3 words. Library. Second floor. I stared at the message for a full minute before replying. You know sentences are free, right? His answer came back almost instantly. Please, Ethan Brooks, will you help me not embarrass myself in front of a cute guy? I hated how fast my chest reacted to that. Cute guy? Not me. Obviously not me. I showed up 10 minutes late on purpose, because showing up early would have been pathetic. Mason was already there, sitting at one of the corner tables near the big windows, football duffel under his chair, hoodie sleeves pushed up, hair still damp like he had rushed over straight from the locker room. He looked up when I walked in, and his face did this small thing. Not a smile exactly, more like relief. You came. I dropped my backpack onto the chair across from him. You summoned me like a freshman equipment manager. I said please. After I complained. Still counts. I sat down, trying very hard not to notice the second coffee cup beside his laptop. Mason slid it toward me. I got you iced caramel. You always get that, right? My hand froze halfway to the cup. It was stupid. Tiny. Barely anything. But he remembered. I told myself lots of people remembered coffee orders. Baristas did it professionally. Yeah, I managed. Thanks. Mason watched me take a sip, like he was checking if he got it right. When I nodded, his shoulders relaxed. Again with that. Like my approval mattered. Okay, he said, opening a blank note on his phone. Teach me. First lesson. Do not say teach me like that. His eyebrows lifted. Like what? Like you are about to ask me how to throw a spiral. He laughed quietly, then leaned closer over the table. Fine. How would you want someone to start? I tried to focus on the coffee, on the laptop stickers, on literally anything except how close his hands were to mine. Do not overthink. Just ask about something real. If you noticed his day was bad, say that. If you noticed he is tired, say that. If you noticed he likes something, bring it up. Mason nodded, serious like he was studying game footage. So noticing is good. Noticing is the whole thing. His eyes flicked over my face. You look less tired today. My stomach did a weird drop. Was that practice? Was it bad? It was. I looked down, pretending to adjust my sleeve. It was fine. Fine good. I hated that he remembered that too. Fine good. A slow smile pulled at his mouth, and for 1 second I forgot this was supposed to be about someone else. Then Mason tapped his phone screen. Okay, what about compliments? Keep them specific. Not just you look good. That sounds lazy. But what if he does look good? Then find a better way to say it. Mason leaned back, studying me again. Like, that shirt works on you. I glanced down at my plain green overshirt. This shirt. Yeah. His voice dropped slightly. Makes your eyes look lighter. I stopped breathing for half a second. The library hummed around us. Pages turning. Someone whispering near the shelves. Rain starting softly against the windows. Mason did not look away. I forced a laugh. Too late and too thin. Okay, that one might be too much. Too much bad. Too much like you know what you are doing. Maybe I am learning. His fingers reached for the phone at the same time mine moved to slide it back toward him, and our hands bumped. Not even fully. Just knuckles. Warm skin, quick contact. Nothing dramatic. Except neither of us moved right away. Mason looked at our hands first, then at me. My pulse started acting insane. I pulled back and picked up my coffee like that had been the plan all along. Anyway, I muttered. Maybe do not stare at him like you are waiting for a confession. Mason's mouth twitched. Is that what I was doing? I do not know what you were doing. Maybe I was checking if it worked. On me. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Mason went quiet. Really quiet. His thumb rested against the edge of his phone, but he was not looking at it anymore. Yeah, he said finally. On you. My chest tightened so fast it almost hurt. I told myself he meant the practice. He had to mean the practice. That was the whole point. So I smiled, because smiling was safer than asking the question burning holes through my brain. Congratulations. Your fake flirting is improving. Mason looked down, but the corner of his mouth stayed soft. Good, he murmured. I was hoping it would. Mason's next idea was worse. Not bad worse. Dangerous worse. He decided texting practice was not enough, because apparently ruining my nervous system in public had been too easy. So Friday night, after his away game film session got canceled, he showed up outside my apartment with takeout, a wet hoodie, and the kind of smile that made smart people make bad choices. You said flirting works better when it feels natural. I stood in my doorway, one hand still on the knob. So your plan was to ambush me with Thai food? Mason lifted the paper bag slightly. Pad CEW. Extra lime. You told me that once. I stared at him. I told you that in October. Yeah. He looked almost proud of himself. Noticing is the whole thing, right? That was unfair. Completely unfair. I should have told him I was busy. I should have told him I had homework or plans or a sudden medical emergency involving common sense. Instead, I stepped aside. Come in. My apartment was not ready for Mason Carter. There were socks near the couch, a hoodie over the armchair, 2 empty soda cans on the coffee table. Mason did not seem to care. He kicked off his shoes like he had been there 100 times, set the food down, and glanced around with this quiet little smile. This is very you. Messy. Comfortable. I hated that answer more. We ate on the couch with some basketball game playing low in the background, even though neither of us really watched it. Mason sat close. Not pressed against me, not enough to call it anything, but close enough that every time he reached for a napkin, his knee brushed mine. The first few times, I moved away a little. The fourth time, I stopped. He noticed. Of course he did. Okay, he murmured, setting his food container down. New scenario. I leaned back. There are scenarios now. You are at a party. I am trying to talk to you. Someone else is flirting with you first. Very detailed. I am an athlete. We visualize. I laughed, and he smiled like he had earned it. Then he shifted toward me, one arm resting along the back of the couch. Not touching my shoulders. Just close enough to make the air feel different. So, he started, voice lower. Do I interrupt? Or is that rude? Depends. On what? On whether you have a reason. Mason's eyes stayed on mine. What if my reason is I do not like seeing him make you laugh? The laugh died in my throat. Just disappeared. The room went quiet except for the game announcer mumbling from the TV. I waited for Mason to grin, to say got you, to make it a joke before the silence got too honest. He did not. His expression changed instead, softer and almost confused, like the words had surprised him too. My chest tightened. That is, I swallowed. That is a little intense for practice. Yeah. Mason looked down for a second. I know. I should have moved. I should have made a joke. But he was still so close, and the smell of rain was still caught in his hoodie, and my brain was doing that stupid thing where it tried to turn pain into hope. Then his phone buzzed on the table. A text lit up the screen before either of us could ignore it. From Trevor. Bro, you with Ethan again? Mason grabbed it too fast. Too fast to be casual. My stomach dropped. Your team keeping attendance? He rubbed the back of his neck. They are just messing around. Right. I looked at the TV, even though I could not have told you the score if my life depended on it. Mason's voice got quieter. It is not like that. I nodded once. I know. I did not know. That was the problem. Mason put his phone face down and turned toward me again. Ethan. I hated how careful he sounded. Like I was something breakable. It does not bother me that they know I am here. You sure? Yeah. His hand shifted on the couch between us. His fingers brushed mine. This time, it was not accidental. Not really. He did not grab my hand. He just let his knuckles rest against mine, warm and still, like he was asking a question without using words. My whole body went quiet. Mason, I whispered, and I hated how my voice sounded. He looked at me then. Really looked. Like there was no mystery guy. No practice. No team. No couch. Just me, sitting there trying very hard not to fall apart over half an inch of contact. His phone buzzed again. Neither of us looked. Mason's fingers stayed where they were. Tell me if this is bad, he said. My throat went dry. If what is bad? His thumb moved, barely touching the side of my hand. This. I told myself it was still practice. I told myself he was testing a move, learning what worked, collecting reactions for someone else. But my hand did not move away. And for the first time, I was not sure I believed myself. I did not sleep much after that. Not because anything happened. That was the embarrassing part. Mason Carter touched my hand for maybe 5 seconds on my couch, and my brain treated it like a national emergency. By Monday, I had convinced myself I was being dramatic. He was practicing. He had asked if it was bad. I had answered by sitting there like a malfunctioning lamp. That was all. Normal. Totally normal. Then Mason waited for me outside my communications class with 2 coffees and ruined the whole lie. You look like you fought a printer and lost. I stopped in the hallway, backpack slipping down one shoulder. Good morning to you too. He held out the iced caramel. Peace offering. For what? His eyes flicked over my face, quick but careful. For making things weird Friday. My hand tightened around the coffee. Students moved around us, laughing, talking, pushing through the hallway like nothing in the world was complicated. I wanted to be one of them. You did not make it weird. Mason gave me a look. Ethan. Just my name. Quiet. Direct. Annoying. My stomach twisted because he knew I was lying. Worse, I knew he knew. Fine, I muttered. Maybe a little weird. Bad weird. There it was again. That stupid question he kept using like he did not understand what it did to me. I looked at the floor. I do not know. Mason nodded slowly, but he did not step back. If anything, he shifted closer to let two girls pass behind him, and suddenly his shoulder was almost touching mine. Can we try something after class? I laughed once, too sharp. That sounds like a terrible sentence. His mouth twitched. Practice. Practice. Right. Practice. The safest word in the world, and somehow the most dangerous one. We ended up in an empty study room on the third floor of the library, the kind with glass walls and a table too small for two people pretending they were not aware of each other. Rain tapped against the window. Mason dropped his backpack by the chair, but did not sit. Neither did I. Okay, he breathed, rubbing his palms on his jeans. Scenario. You really need a new hobby. You are at a party, he continued, ignoring me badly. I want to tell you something before I lose my nerve. My pulse shifted. That is not flirting. Maybe not. His voice was lower now. The room felt smaller. Maybe it is the part before. I swallowed and leaned back against the table, trying to create distance. It did not work. Mason took one step closer. Not fast. Not bold. Careful, like he was giving me every chance to tell him to stop. What would you want him to say? I tried to smile. Nothing came out right. Who? The guy. The mystery guy? His eyes stayed on mine. Yeah. A long second passed. I hated that word suddenly. Mystery. Like I was helping him build courage for someone with no face, no name, no place in the room. I guess I would want him to stop talking in circles. Mason's breath caught a little. Barely. But I saw it. And say what? That depends on what he wants. The silence after that was ridiculous. Heavy enough that I could hear the hum of the lights above us. Mason looked down at my hand where it rested on the edge of the table. Slowly, like he was trying not to scare me, his fingers moved beside mine. Not touching yet. Just close. What if he wants something he is not sure he is allowed to want? My throat went dry. Then he should probably ask. Mason looked up. His face was so open for a second that it almost hurt to see. Ethan. My name sounded different that time. Not like a joke. Not like practice. His fingers finally brushed mine, and this time I turned my hand just enough that our knuckles fit together. His eyes dropped to it, then back to my mouth. The room went completely still. I knew what was about to happen, or I thought I did. Mason leaned in half an inch, then stopped like he had hit an invisible wall. I did not move away. I could not. Tell me to stop, he whispered. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. I did not say stop. His eyes closed for a second. Like that made it worse. Like that made it real. Then someone knocked on the glass. Both of us jumped apart so fast my hip hit the table. A girl from my class stood outside, holding up her laptop with an awkward smile. Sorry, did you guys reserve this? Mason stepped back, rubbing a hand over his face. I stared at the floor, heart pounding like I had just sprinted across campus. No, I managed. We were leaving. We grabbed our bags without looking at each other. Out in the hallway, Mason walked beside me in silence, close but not touching. At the stairs, he finally stopped. Ethan. I looked at him even though I knew I should not. His expression was a mess. Nervous. Frustrated. Almost scared. That was not. He stopped. Swallowed. Tried again. I was not practicing. Everything inside me went quiet. Then his phone buzzed, loud between us. He glanced down. Whatever he saw made his jaw tighten. Team meeting, he murmured. Of course. I nodded like my heart was not still sitting somewhere back in that study room. Go. Mason did not move right away. His hand twitched like he wanted to reach for me. He did not. We need to talk. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile I did not feel. Apparently, we almost did. By Tuesday morning, Mason was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I saw him across campus twice. Once outside the athletic building with his teammates, laughing at something Trevor said. Once in line at the cafe, looking at his phone with that tight expression he got when he was thinking too hard. Both times, he saw me. Both times, his face changed. And both times, he did not come over. I told myself that was fine. We almost had a moment in a library study room. He got pulled into football stuff, and now he needed space. Normal. Mature. Completely unbearable. By lunch, I gave up pretending I could focus and went to the student center. Big mistake. Mason was there with half the team at a long table near the windows. Loud voices. Trays of fries. Someone tossing a balled-up napkin like it was a game-winning pass. I almost turned around, but Trevor spotted me first. Brooks. His voice carried across the room. Subtle as a fire alarm. Mason's head snapped up. My stomach tightened. Trevor grinned like he knew something. You joining us? Or is Mason keeping you on a private schedule now? A couple of guys laughed. Not cruel. Not exactly. Just enough to make my face heat. Mason's smile disappeared. Trevor. One word. Low warning. Trevor lifted both hands, still grinning. What? You have been disappearing with him all week. I am just saying. Another teammate leaned back in his chair. Film study, huh? The table laughed again, and Mason's jaw flexed. I stood there with my backpack strap digging into my shoulder, feeling like I had accidentally walked into a locker room conversation I was never supposed to hear. I wanted Mason to say something. Anything. A joke. A denial. A simple, leave him alone. He did, kind of. Knock it off. But he did not look at me when he said it. That was the part that landed wrong. His eyes stayed on his tray, like looking at me would make it worse. I forced out a laugh because that was what people do when they are trying not to look humiliated. I was just grabbing coffee. Mason finally looked up. There was apology in his face. Maybe panic too. But it came too late. Ethan, wait. I was already moving. You are good. I hated how casual I sounded. Like my chest was not folding in on itself. I got outside before he caught up. The air was cold enough to sting, and I focused on that instead of the way Mason jogged after me, calling my name once, then softer the second time. Ethan. I stopped near the bike racks. Not because I wanted to. Because if I kept walking, I was pretty sure I would look like I was running away. Mason slowed in front of me, breathing a little harder, hoodie shifting on his shoulders. I am sorry. I looked past him at the parking lot. For what? For them. They are your friends. They are idiots. They are your idiots. He rubbed both hands over his face, frustrated. I know. I should have shut it down faster. I gave him a small nod. Yeah, probably. That made him flinch, which should have made me feel bad. It did not. Not really. It is just... Mason looked back toward the student center windows, where a couple of his teammates were very badly pretending not to watch us. His voice dropped. They notice everything. My throat tightened. And that is a problem? He looked at me quickly. No, too fast. Too automatic. No, not you. Not us. I mean us. The word hit me before the rest of his sentence could. Mason seemed to realize it too, because he stopped talking. For 1 second, neither of us moved. The wind pushed at his damp hair. My hands were cold around my coffee cup. There is an us? I should not have asked it. Not there. Not with his teammates 20 yards away. Not when Mason already looked like he was standing too close to the edge of something. His eyes searched mine, and I saw the answer before he said anything. Then his phone buzzed. Again. He glanced down, and the moment broke across his face. Coach. Practice moved up. Of course it had. I have to go. His voice sounded like he hated himself for saying it. I nodded once. Yeah, you always do. That one landed. Mason went still. That is not fair. Maybe. I stepped back before he could reach for me. But it feels true. He did not follow this time. I walked away with my coffee untouched, and my heart doing that awful thing where it still wanted him even while I was mad. Halfway across the quad, my phone vibrated. Mason, I am not embarrassed of you. A second later, another message came through. Mason, I am scared they are going to see something I have not figured out how to say yet. I did not answer Mason's text right away. Not because I did not want to. That was the problem. I wanted to answer too much. I sat through my afternoon lecture with his messages sitting on my lock screen like they were trying to burn through the glass. I am not embarrassed of you. I am scared they are going to see something I have not figured out how to say yet. I read them so many times the words stopped looking real. By 6, I was back at my apartment, still telling myself not to text him first, when someone knocked on my door. 3 soft knocks. Then one more, like he changed his mind halfway through. I opened it, and Mason was standing there in sweats, team hoodie, hair messy from his helmet, looking nothing like the version of him everyone cheered for on Saturdays. He looked tired, nervous, human. "You ignored me," he muttered. I leaned against the doorframe. "You left." His mouth tightened, but he nodded like he deserved that. "Yeah." For a second, neither of us said anything. The hallway light buzzed above us. Someone's dog barked 2 apartments down. Normal sounds. Normal place. Nothing about my chest felt normal. Mason glanced over his shoulder, then back at me. "Can I come in?" I should have made him wait. I should have been cooler than I was. Instead, I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, like the apartment had changed since Friday. Like the couch remembered something we were both trying not to say. I closed the door behind him, and the clicks sounded too loud. Mason stood near the coffee table, hands in his hoodie pocket. "I messed up today." "Yeah." I did not know what to do. I crossed my arms, not because I was cold. "That makes 2 of us." His eyes lifted to mine. There was no smile this time. No joke to hide behind. "When Trevor said that stuff, I panicked. I noticed. Not because of you." His voice went rough around the edges. "Because he was right." That shut me up. Mason looked down, breathing out through his nose like he had been holding the sentence in all day. "I have been disappearing with you. I have been making excuses to see you. I have been buying your coffee and memorizing dumb things you like and acting like it is practice because that sounded less terrifying than the truth." My hands dropped from my chest. Slowly. "Mason." "No, let me say it before I chicken out." He laughed once, but it did not sound happy. "I keep telling myself I am figuring something out. Like if I call it practice, I get more time. Like I can stand close to you and ask what works on you and pretend I am collecting information for someone else." My heart started pounding so hard I felt it in my throat. Mason took 1 step closer. Not enough to crowd me. Enough to make me feel the space between us. But Friday night, when you did not move your hand away, his eyes flicked down, then back up. I did not want that to be practice. The room went completely quiet. I wanted to say something smart. Something guarded. Something that protected whatever was left of my pride. All I managed was, "Then what did you want it to be?" Mason swallowed. His fingers curled inside the front pocket of his hoodie. "Real." 1 word. Barely louder than a breath. It hit harder than any confession should have. My chest tightened, but not in the bad way. More like something locked inside me had finally been touched. "You have a weird way of showing real," I whispered. His face twisted a little. "I know. You made me think there was someone else. I know. You let me help you flirt with him. I know." He stepped closer again, eyes steady now even though the rest of him looked scared. "And every time you told me what to say, I kept wishing I was brave enough to say it to you without pretending." I looked away because if I kept staring at him, I was going to believe every word. And believing him was dangerous. "So there is no guy?" Mason's silence pulled my eyes back to him. His expression softened. "There is." My stomach dropped. Then he added, "He is standing right in front of me." I hated how badly my breath caught. Mason noticed. Of course he did. His shoulders loosened just a little, like that tiny reaction gave him courage. "I do not want to go back to normal," he said. "I tried today. At lunch. With the team. Acting like we were nothing. I hated it. The anger I had been holding on to cracked, just a little." "You did?" "Yeah." His voice dropped. "I did not want you to leave." His hand lifted slowly, stopping halfway between us. Not touching. Asking. This time, I looked at it. Then at him. I placed my fingers against his palm, light enough that either of us could still back out. Mason exhaled like he had been waiting all day to breathe. His hand closed gently around mine. Not for practice. Not by accident. And for the first time, neither of us pretended it meant nothing. For about 10 minutes, holding Mason's hand felt easy. That was the part that scared me later. We just stood in my apartment, close enough for our shoulders to almost touch, his thumb moving once across the side of my hand like he was checking that I was still there. Neither of us said much. We did not need to. The quiet did not feel awkward for once. It felt full. Then his phone buzzed. Mason looked down, and I watched his face change before I even saw the screen. Not panic exactly. More like the football captain version of him slid back into place. Careful. Guarded. Trained. Coach. I tried to keep my voice light. He shook his head. "Trevor." The name landed between us wrong. Mason did not let go of my hand right away, but his grip changed. Looser. Like he was already halfway somewhere else. I hated that I noticed. "What does he want?" Mason read the text, jaw tightening. Team is going out after practice tomorrow. He wants to know if I am bringing my private flirting coach. My stomach sank so fast I almost laughed. Wow. He is being stupid. Is he? Mason looked up. Ethan. No. I mean, he is not wrong. I pulled my hand back before I could talk myself out of it. The air felt colder immediately. Mason's eyes dropped to the space where our hands had been. Do not do that. Do what? Act like this is only embarrassing for me. That hit harder than I expected. I stepped away, running a hand through my hair. I am not embarrassed. Then what are you? I turned toward the kitchen because looking at him was making it impossible to stay calm. Confused. Mason went quiet. The worst kind. When I finally looked back, he was standing in the same spot, shoulders tense, face closed off just enough to make my chest hurt. I thought I made it clear. You did. For 5 minutes. My laugh came out small and tired. Then one text from Trevor, and you looked like you wanted to disappear. His mouth opened, then closed. Because he knew. That was the problem. He knew exactly what I meant. I am trying, he murmured. I know. My voice softened even though I did not want it to. But I cannot keep being the thing you try in private and hide from in public. Mason flinched. That is not fair. Maybe not. But it is what it feels like. He looked away, rubbing the back of his neck. I have never done this before. Neither have I. You think I am not scared? His voice cracked just enough to make me stop. He stepped closer, then stopped himself like he was afraid touching me would make everything worse. You think I know how to walk into a locker room with 30 guys who think they know me and suddenly not care what they see? My anger loosened, but it did not disappear. I am not asking you to announce anything. Then what are you asking? The question hung there, too big for my tiny apartment. I wanted a simple answer. I wanted to say, choose me. Say it. Stop hiding. But that sounded unfair and terrifying and too much like begging. So I shrugged, which was a coward's answer, but it was all I had. I am asking you not to make me feel stupid for believing you. Mason's face changed. The guard dropped again. You are not stupid. I feel stupid. Ethan. I do. My throat tightened, and I hated it. Because every time I start thinking maybe this is real, something happens. A teammate laughs. Your phone buzzes. You step back. And I am right back where I started, wondering if I imagined the whole thing. Mason stared at me like those words hurt more than he expected. For a second, I thought he would move toward me anyway. I almost wanted him to. Instead, he nodded once, slow and stiff. Okay. That was it. Okay. The word dropped into my stomach like a stone. Okay. He picked up his hoodie from the back of the couch, not looking at me. I should go before I make this worse. My chest tightened. Mason, that is not what I meant. I know. But his voice already sounded far away. He stopped at the door with his hand on the knob, back to me. I am not regretting it. I froze. Mason turned just enough for me to see his profile. Holding your hand. Saying it was real. Any of it. I am not regretting it. The door opened. Hallway lights spilled across the floor. I am just scared I am going to hurt you while I figure out how not to be scared. Then he left, quiet and careful, like closing the door gently would make it hurt less. It did not. I stood there staring at the empty space he left behind, my hand still warm where his had been, telling myself maybe stepping back was smarter. Maybe this was the part where we saved ourselves. But my phone buzzed 10 minutes later. Mason, I do not want normal back. Mason, I just do not know how to get to real without messing it up. The next day, Mason tried to act normal. That lasted about 12 seconds. He was waiting outside my apartment building when I came down for class, leaning against the brick wall with 2 coffees in his hands and dark circles under his eyes like he had slept even less than I had. I stopped on the last step. This feels familiar. His mouth pulled into a tired, almost smile. Yeah, I am running out of moves. I looked at the coffee, then at him. Is this practice? Mason did not smile this time. He held my gaze, steady even though his fingers tightened around the cup. No, one word. Simple. It hit harder than it should have. I walked closer, but not too close. There was still enough space between us for all the things we had not said. Mason handed me the coffee. I took it. Our fingers did not touch. Both of us noticed. I read your texts, I told him. I figured. I did not know what to say. Me neither. He looked down at the sidewalk, then back up. That is kind of the problem. Students passed behind us in hoodies and backpacks, laughing too loud for 8 in the morning. Someone on a skateboard rolled by, wheels rattling over the cracks. The world kept moving like mine had not been stuck on one sentence all night. I do not want normal back. Mason took a breath. I cannot keep pretending this is about flirting practice. My chest tightened. There it was. The thing we had been circling for days. Then what is it about? His eyes dropped to the coffee in my hand, then to my face. You. My throat went dry. I hated how badly I needed to hear it. Say that again. Mason blinked. What? Not because I did not hear you. My voice came out quieter. Because I did. He stared at me for a second, and something in his expression softened. Not the public Mason. Not the captain. Just him. It is about you, Ethan. I looked away because the sidewalk suddenly felt safer than his face. Then why did you make up someone else? He exhaled slowly. Because I was scared you would laugh. At you. Or get uncomfortable. Or tell me I read everything wrong. His hand moved like he wanted to reach for me, then stopped halfway. You are hard to read sometimes. I almost laughed. Me? Yeah, you. Mason, I have been one bad compliment away from passing out for a week. That got a real laugh out of him. Small. Relieved. It disappeared fast. I did not know that. Of course you did not. I was trying to survive. The silence after that felt different. Less sharp. More honest. Mason looked at me like he was finally letting himself see the damage he had done, not just the fear that made him do it. I am sorry, he murmured, for making you feel like a backup plan. You did not make me feel like a backup plan. I paused. You made me feel like a rehearsal. His face tightened. That is worse. Yeah. He nodded once, taking it. No excuses. No joke. Just quiet. I do not want you to be a rehearsal. His voice dropped. I want you to be the person I stop rehearsing for. My chest did that stupid thing again, opening and hurting at the same time. I looked at his hand. Still halfway between us. Still not touching. And what happens when Trevor makes another joke? Mason followed my gaze, then looked back at me. I tell him to shut up. You already did that. No, he shook his head. I mean, I stop acting like the joke is dangerous because it is close to the truth. A car passed on the street, splashing through a shallow puddle. Neither of us moved. I am not asking you to come out to the whole team in a press conference, I said. His mouth twitched. Good. My statement would be terrible. I am serious. I know. His face went calm again. Scared but calm. I know you are. I swallowed. I just need to know I am not standing here alone. Mason stepped closer. Slow enough that I could step back. I did not. You are not. His fingers brushed mine. Barely. A question. This time, I answered by turning my hand into his. His palm closed around mine, warm and careful, right there on the sidewalk where anyone could see. My heart started pounding. Mason looked down at our hands like he was scared and relieved at the same time. Then he looked past me. His shoulders stiffened. I followed his eyes. Across the walkway, near the student center, Trevor stood with two guys from the team. He had seen us. Of course he had. My hand almost pulled back by instinct. Mason felt it. His grip tightened, gentle but certain. Do not, he whispered. I looked at him. Mason. He kept his eyes on Trevor for one more second. Then he turned back to me. I am done making you feel stupid for believing me. Trevor lifted his eyebrows from across the path, clearly waiting for Mason to panic. Mason did not. He just held my hand a little more openly and raised the coffee in his other hand like nothing was wrong. Like maybe, for once, nothing was. My breath caught. Mason glanced down at me, nervous smile barely there. Was that okay? I looked at our hands, then at Trevor pretending not to stare, then back at the guy who had finally stopped rehearsing. Yeah, I said, and my voice almost broke on it. That was fine, good. People think the big moment is always loud. A kiss in the rain. A speech in front of everybody. Some dramatic scene where music should be playing. Ours happened on a sidewalk outside my apartment, with 2 lukewarm coffees, 3 football players staring from across the path, and Mason Carter holding my hand like he had finally stopped looking for an excuse to let go. Trevor was the first one to move. He crossed the walkway with his backpack slung over one shoulder and that stupid grin already loaded. My whole body braced for it. Mason felt it. His thumb pressed once against the side of my hand. Stay? Not out loud. But I heard it anyway. Trevor stopped in front of us, eyes dropping to our hands, then back to Mason's face. So he started. Private schedule? Mason did not flinch. He took a sip of coffee like this was the most normal conversation in the world. Jealous. Trevor blinked. I almost choked. Mason's face stayed calm, but I could see the red creeping up his neck. He was nervous. Terrified, maybe. But he did not let go. Trevor looked between us again, and for 1 second, I thought he might make it weird. Then he laughed under his breath and shook his head. Honestly, about time. My brain stalled. Mason did too. What? Trevor shrugged. Bro, you have been staring at him like he was the playbook for 2 weeks. One of the guys behind him called out, longer than that. Mason turned his head slowly. Nobody asked you. They laughed. Not mean. Not sharp. Just regular guy laughter, the kind that made something scary feel smaller. I looked at Mason, and the tension in his shoulders had not disappeared, but it had changed. Like he had been ready for a hit and got a shove instead. Trevor pointed at me with his coffee. You heard him, Brooks. I am making you run stadium stairs. I lifted my free hand. Fair. Mason groaned. Please do not threaten my. He stopped. One word short. My heart caught on it. Trevor noticed, because of course he did. You're what? Mason looked at me. This time, he did not look away. He did not say boyfriend. Not yet. And weirdly, I did not need him to. He just squeezed my hand once and turned back to Trevor. My Ethan. It was simple. Almost dumb. Exactly his style. And somehow it hit me harder than a perfect confession ever could have. Trevor made a gagging sound. That was disgusting. Walk away, Trevor. Gladly. He backed up, grinning. See you at practice, Romeo. Mason flipped him off with the hand not holding mine, and I laughed so hard the tight feeling in my chest finally broke open. After they left, the sidewalk got quiet again. Just morning traffic, wind in the trees, someone's music leaking faintly from an open dorm window. Mason looked down at our hands like he still could not believe he was allowed to keep mine. Was that too much? I shook my head. No, the my Ethan thing? Terrible. His face fell for half a second. I nudged his shoulder with mine. But I liked it. He smiled then. Not the campus smile. Not the football captain smile. The real one. The nervous one I was starting to like way too much. Good. We did not suddenly become perfect after that. Mason still got weird sometimes when people looked too long. I still overthought messages that did not need overthinking. We were not magically brave every second of every day. But that morning changed the direction. That was what mattered. We walked to campus together, hand in hand until the crowd got thicker near the student center. My old instinct kicked in. Pull away. Act normal. Make it easier. Mason must have felt my fingers loosen because he stopped walking. Not dramatically. Just stopped. Hey. I looked at him. He held my hand a little firmer. We can go slow. His voice was quiet, meant only for me. But I do not want to go backward. My throat tightened. There it was. The whole thing. Not a promise he could never be scared again. Not a speech about forever. Just a choice. Slow but forward. I nodded. Okay. His thumb brushed mine. Okay. Yeah. I looked at our hands, then at the campus in front of us. Loud and messy and normal. Slow, but forward. Mason smiled like those words mattered. Then we kept walking. And for once, I stopped trying to figure out what counted as practice and what counted as real. Because his hand was still in mine. Because he had seen the people watching and stayed. Because when we reached the cafe, he ordered my iced caramel without asking, then looked at me with that small nervous smile and said, "Date after class?" I pretended to think about it, because he deserved at least a little payback. Depends. His eyebrows lifted. On what? I took my coffee from him, our fingers brushing like they had 100 times before, except now neither of us had to pretend it was accidental. On whether you were still practicing. Mason leaned closer, just enough for only me to hear. No, his eyes stayed on mine. I finally got it right.